Aloha mai kako. I am Lamaku Mikahala Roy. To the Office of Mauna Kea Management, the Board of Regents, the University of Hawaii, Governor David Ige, State of Hawaii, from Lamaku Mikahala Roy, Kahu Ahu'ena Heiau, Kamakohonu, Hawaii, regarding strong, clear, and eternal opposition of the proposed draft rules for Mauna Kea. Here at this public hearing at Waikoloa, September 26, 2018. Please, I will read from earlier testimony I've given regarding this, that is the testimony that I offer tonight. Mauna Kea belongs to Akua, divine creator. All associated with Mauna Kea belongs to Akua. Psalms 24:1, quote, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the rivers." Close quote. Mauna Kea is the pinnacle and highest point of the remnants of Kalua'okalani, the second heaven. By its name, Kalua'okalani is the birthplace and origin of all life created by Akua for Oiwi in the Pacific and for all mankind upon the earth. Declaration of the Kahu of Ahu'ena Heiau Kamakohonu. I am Mikahala Roy, Kahu of Ahu'ena Heiau at Kamakohonu. I inherited this title by my designation of my father, Kahu David Kili'ihele Mauna Roy Jr., who led the restoration of Ahu'ena Heiau by and for Oiwi beginning in 1975. I began my service on April 6, 2005. I inherit the purposes and authority of the station of Kahu as the divine servant of this royal and sacred temple of the Hawaiian Islands and of the ancestors of Hawaii under Keakua Manamanaloa, divine creator. As Kamakohonu was designated first capital of Hawaii and Ahu'ena Heiau, the personal temple of Kamo'i Kalani Pai'ea Kunuia Kea Kamehameha the Great, the meaning of the enduring life of spirit of Ahu'ena Heiau is equal to the enduring life of spirit of all of the lands and Oiwi of the Hawaiian Islands of the Pacific. Native Hawaiians have the right to challenge construction plans that disturb Hawaiian burial sites, the Hawaii Supreme Court ruled in August 2010. But by the Constitution of the State of Hawaii, proceeding from the Constitution of the United States of America, the separation of church and state is clear. The state has no say in the worship, continuity, and evolution of the first faith of the lands of Hawaii. Further, by the say in worship, further, by the Freedom of Religions Act, passed in 1978, the state is obligated to not only recognize, but to protect the religion of Hawaii. This applies to lands they lawfully own and those they illegally occupy, such as Hawaii. I stand before you today, the representative of the ancestors of Hawaii and Akua for Kamakohonu. As I stand here, so do all of those in service, past, present, and future, of all the temples of Hawaii, and other sacred properties stand with me. As I'm here, our ancestors stand before you. We are in the presence of divine creator. The state of Hawaii has no authority to desecrate or declare themselves in any form overseers of sacred burials and properties at Kamakohonu in Lanihau or anywhere in the Hawaiian Islands. Akua oversees Hawaii. By their own law, the state has no part in the religion of Hawaii. Restoration of sacred sites and protection of burials are included in the divine plan for Hawaii's present and future. My testimony today is wholeheartedly against H. Bill 1618 and Senate Bill 1527. There exists no rightful avenue for the state of Hawaii to attempt the exertion of control upon native healers of Hawaii, no more than it has rightful means to do so over sacred temples, burial grounds, in short, upon all of sacred Hawaii. The state has no right at all to involve itself in its regulatory parties in the sacred religious practices of Hawaii. The Declaration of Kamakohonu gives fuel and energy to cohesive voice that Hawaii is the domain of Akua, divine creator. It states, the state has no say in the worship, continuity, and evolution of the first faith of the lands of Hawaii. By state laws, the separation of church and state is clear. By the Freedom of Religions Act passed in 1978, the state is obligated to not only recognize religions, but to protect religious freedom. This applies to lands they lawfully own and they illegally occupy, such as Hawaii. OEV have the right to challenge construction plans that disturb Hawaiian burial sites, as confirmed by the Hawaii Supreme Court ruling of August 2010. Temples of worship and burial grounds are ultimate religious domains. Inana ia kapulapula ikala'akea ikala'auli. May the descendants be cared for in times of light and in times of misfortune. Holopapa kapono nikahalaroi kahu ahuana heiau. On Mother's Day, May 10th, 2015, a woman received a telepathic message from an EO. She reported in Waikoloa. She saw in her mind's eye the bird's features, colors, and markings, and was told where to look to find him. Driving along the highway, she soon did come upon the one who had called her. He had passed on. The woman made a call that came to me. I went to prayer in the noon hour of that day. A powerful divine conveyance came forward. Here is what I'd like to share with you. Here is a divine conveyance from Akua Manamanaloa. Winds of love swirl surrounding Mauna upon the earth, extending outward to the most distant realms of silent and resounding space. Great winds carry the love of divine creator for all creation, from the largest to the smallest matter. Great winds of love remind all life where you come from. On this day, to honor mothers and motherhood, now recall and honor the creator of all life. Let this date, 5/10/2015, remind us forever of Io, that delivers a message and confirmation, the restoration of the kingdom of Hawaii in the complete Hawaiian archipelago of islands is in process. Mankind forgets that all of creation belongs to me, your divine creator. One of my forms on earth is the Io, seen in its home in Hawaii. How is it that words are expressed but then forgotten? Psalm 24:1. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he has founded it upon the seas and established it upon the rivers. In Hawaii, the words yet live. Spirit is honored by my firstborn, known as Hiapo. Kaluokalani is the name that, among other translations, means the second heaven. It is the loving first home of divine world and humankind, the first home of divine beings and man. Here, love was the vibration that permeated and made all live in harmony and thrive. The name of the land persisted through present generations and is now being reinvigorated. Kaluokalani is perhaps best represented by her tallest mountain peak, yet she has numerous wondrous representations in the waterfalls, the valleys, the rivers, the seas. The peak is Mauna, my holy mountain, and place held in greatest reverence. Let this be the commemoration of the day Heavenly Hawk in Waikoloa conveyed my message to the greatest and to the smallest of my creations in the place I've prepared to serve the earth and mankind. Let Kaluokalani awaken all to love and harmony. The restoration of the Kingdom of Hawaii, led by Ali'inui Mo'i Edmund K. Silva Jr. and No Keokua Keopuni o Hawaii, is underway. The unity of OEV of the Pacific is held in spirit by their ancestors who serve me. From the very first kingdom established at Kamakohonu, my holy light has shined throughout all movements of man. Now, by the readiness of all workers for light and workers of my holiness throughout the world, do I proclaim Mauna Wakea, my holy mountain, and Ko Hawaii Pai Aina as lands of Kaluokalani, now occupied by the United States of America. No kia kua kia puni o Hawaii by Ali'inui Mo'i Edmund Kili'i Silva Jr. is enforced to restore my homeland and the Pacific and all of my creations for the good of all life and time to come. He oiai o no, truth indeed. Received and recorded May 10th, 2015, Lamaku Mikahalaroi, Kahu Ahu Enaheo. Here is my testimony for this evening, and I will furnish a complete file. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is the first phase of the hearing as far as hearing comments. My question is, what's the follow-up phase? Does the board, and does somebody go through the comments and then make suggested revisions for the board to consider, or does the draft rules as it is come before the board again?
There will be suggested revisions based on the testimony that we received yesterday, the day before yesterday, and on Friday, as well as anything in writing that comes in outside of a meeting. All of that testimony, as well as the transcript, will come to the regents, who will, on October the 18th, decide what more needs to be done. So these 4 hearings are actually close to the end of the process, but they're the first time that the public has an opportunity to see exactly what all of the previous discussions have produced.
And then is there a committee, like a subcommittee of the board that compiles and makes suggested revisions? Like who is in the next phase will be making those types of suggested revisions?
My understanding is the proposed revisions will come from the Office of Mauna Kea Management after listening to all of this. We will see all of this together with whatever recommendations come, and since I will have been at all 4 meetings, I will share my perspective as well.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And before I begin, I'm just going to state that I'm going to go over 3 minutes because in order to provide adequate and response to 43 pages, I'm going to go over 43 minutes. But in due respect, I'm going to go over 3 minutes. So I'm going to save your hand so you don't have to hold up the sign. But in due respect for everyone who's here, I'm going to be as concise as possible. So I'm going to be as concise, but I'm definitely going to go over 3 minutes due to the scope of this.
I understand, and I appreciate your alerting us beforehand. Thank you.
Aloha I ka piko ke aloha, I ka piko ka Mauna a Wakea. My name is E. Kalani Flores, representing the Flores case Ohana. And I stand before you folks, and the reason I asked for clarity in the process, because we've provided testimony on these rules previously, and more recently to the board of the Mauna Kea Management Board. However, when we provide testimony, we come to hearings, provide testimony, unfortunately, testimony just seems to be systematically ignored. Because the rules are basically the same that we provided testimony. I didn't just provide testimony that these rules are no good, in which case some parts of it, but I provided specific parts that should be changed for specific reasons. And I hope to highlight those again, and I hope that at least they're not systematically ignored again. And hopefully there's some revisions to make these rules more compatible for what the intent is. Once again, I represent the Flores case Ohana. We've also been in recent contested case hearings. And the reason, one, in part, why we got involved with the contested case hearings, besides being called forth by our kupuna and others connected to the Mauna, is that looking for accountability. In this whole process we've been through, whether it's with the University of Hawaii, the Board of Land and Natural Resources, or the Department of Land and Natural Resources, there's a lack of accountability on all levels. We go to hearings, we provide testimony. It just seems that we're into a rubber stamp process. it's just a formality. They have to have a hearing according to in Hawaii Revised Statutes 91, Chapter 91. So they do the hearings, and then they just rubber stamp it all the way through, whether it's permits, subleases, everything. I can give the most relevant and significant information to these decision-making bodies, and it's rubber stamped through. And that includes the Mauna Kea Management Board, the Office of Mauna Kea Management as well. And I'm just pinpointing, I'm just telling the realities of this. And so I have to come here tonight to provide testimony once again. Hopefully that something is heard, of that we don't have to keep going through this process. And that's why we got involved in this process. A lack of accountability and integrity in the management of our mountain. And this is nothing new. It's been ongoing. The state auditor's report has spelled it out. And so we have rules brought before here today. But in reality, we're talking about Mauna a Wakea, Awakua, the realm of Wakea, the mountain of Wakea, the mountain of Sky Father. And as Mikahala elaborated, those things are beyond man and humans, what they should be. The activities that humans are doing on the mountain shouldn't be occurring. And that's just plain and simple. And we provided testimony to that effect in contested case hearings before this, and other hearings and other matters before this. But we have here before us is the rules being proposed, referred to as Chapter 2026. So I have some general comments, and I'll touch upon, and then there's some specific comments. I'm not going to go through all my specific comments. I'm just going to highlight a few things. And I have 3 pages of testimony that I submitted here today. General comment number 1. So in order to protect Native Hawaiian customary and traditional rights, exercised for subsistence, cultural, and religious purposes associated with the lands of Mauna Kea, the Board of Land and Natural Resources and the Department of Land and Natural Resources, who is the lessor of those lands, and the University of Hawaii is the lessee of those lands, the BLNR and DLNR are required to conduct an independent kapa'akai analysis to assess the impacts of the proposed rules that would have on customary and traditional practices. As stipulated in a state Supreme Court decision rendered in Kapa'akai o Ka'aina versus Land Use Commission. That decision it's significant, and it outlines the criteria and the way that agencies, particularly state agencies, are to proceed. And what I'm saying is, the board hasn't done a kapa'akai analysis to protect such rights. And in the most recent contested case hearing on the CDUP for the TMT project, Mr. Sam Lemo, director of the DLNR Office of Coastal Lands, Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands, testified to the fact that DLNR and BLNR has not done a kapa'akai analysis. And that was testified at that most recent contested case hearing. So in essence, if you adopt these proposed rules before BLNR and DLNR has completed an independent kapa'akai analysis, these rules will be in clear violation of the kapa'akai and the Hawaii Constitution. And that's as clear and simple as that. And we've been telling the board and everyone else this from the beginning. The reason for doing a kapa'akai analysis is so that the board, who has jurisdiction at this moment as a state agency has control over these lands. And so they are the agency, the entity to do such a kapa'akai analysis. General comment number 2. There should be a separate tiers of penalties and appeals pertaining to the different violations and penalties. As written, the rules lumped everything together, and everything is under one umbrella. There should be specific rules and specific language pertaining to rules and violations from minor to major. Right now, what the approach was to take the rules as if it was a NARS area. But if you look at all the rules that the state has in various different agencies, there's various different rules depending on the type of violation or alleged violation or action that has happened. Because if you read these rules as it is, you could get a penalty, a fine up to $2,500 for parking in the wrong place. That's the way the rules are written. There's something wrong with that process. And so I say you have to look at what other rules are out there that the state has. The rules, like the state agents, the DNR has various different rules, like first offense $100, second offense $200, third offense $500. This goes like $1,000, $2,000, $2,500, $5,000. Something wrong with that. You get a parking ticket, you can end up with a $2,000 citation. Why don't you guys adopt the rules the UH has? UH already has rules for parking, for example. I'm just looking at the parking part. UH has rules on its campus. $40 for parking in the wrong place. $250 you're parking in a handicapped stall. But that's not how the rules are. The rules are set up like they took the NARS rules, the Natural Area Reserve rules, and applied to everything. There's something wrong with that. And I brought this out in a previous testimony. Also, the proposed, and general comment number 3, proposed violations are considered civil in nature. So why aren't they being handled through the existing district or circuit court system instead of a contested case proceeding? Contested case proceedings were never intended for handling these types of civil violations. I mean, we went to we went to 2 contested case hearings. So you mean if I get a parking ticket, I got to go through, and if I want to contest, I got to go through a contested case hearing? That's ridiculous. But that's how the rules are written. There got to be changes in this. The way the system is brought up, these rules are not, they're not cost effective, they're inappropriate, and they're time consuming. So I'm giving you concrete things you can take a look at. So there's other options. So DLNR has a civil resource violation system for handling certain violations that allows it to be just, speedy, and cost-effective. So there are things out there. We're not talking about creating something out of blue. DLNR has things already out in place. So the system I'm referring to is a civil resource violation system. I'm not saying you have to copy it exactly, but it gives you a template that you could use for minor violations or things considered minor. Right now, everything's taken as one lump, whether it's minor or major, and there's only like specific citations you would get. Like I said, 1,000, 2,500, second offense I think is, and 5,000, third offense, according to the rules as written. What's more disturbing is the university is a place of higher learning. It should be able to figure this out. There's years to figure this out. The way it looks like the rules are just lumped together just to get it through. There is years to go through this and go through all the processes and go through all the things that the state has in place now to make the rules more refined. And just to note, once again, my name is Ikalani Flores, and I'm a professor at Hawaii Community College at the Palaumanui campus. So I'm standing out here before you. I am part of the university. And I read these rules. It's almost a shame that I'm part of the university, the way the rules are written. The university is supposed to be at a high standard. And yet when I read these rules, it's like, who wrote these rules? I mean, doesn't the university have legal teams? Doesn't the university even have a legal and Richardson Law School where they could actually review some of these rules? It doesn't seem like any of that was done in this process. Comment number 4, general comment. Several of the proposed rules and the procedures for adoption are not in compliance with the Comprehensive Management Plan, the Mauna Kea Master Plan of 2000, Act 32, as well as other statutory laws. General comment number 5. Several of the proposed rules are invalid for being overbroad and thus infringing on the constitutional rights of individuals. General comment number 6. There also should be a section of rules and associated enforcement that pertains to astronomy personnel UH employees, contractors, researchers, and etc., who are within the Mauna Kea Science Reserve in order to protect the cultural and natural resources. So all the rules is for everyone else, but except for the UH itself. Where are the rules for the university or employees? Either they should all be encompassed on some of these rules, or there should be a separate section. And the reason why I bring that up is because in the last contested case hearing pertaining to the CDUP for the TMT project, a staff member of the Office of Mauna Kea Management, a staff member of the Office of Mauna Kea Management testified to the fact that he knowingly desecrated and destroyed a site associated with cultural practices. Where's the recourse for that? There's no recourse. So in essence, an employee of the university can destroy a site, desecrate a culture site, unknowingly destroy it, and knowingly knock it down based upon his testimony and documented by the archaeologist that was in the field at the time. Yet there's no recourse. That was my general comments. Specific comments, I have a number of them. I've outlined them by specific sections in the proposed rules and what should or should not occur in those, what my suggested comments are. I'm just going to highlight a few of them. For example, on page 3, on page 2 in the bottom, this is section 20-2622, preservation of resources. Many of these specific rules are unnecessarily restrictive in nature. In addition, many of them would be in conflict with Native Hawaiian traditional and customary rights and practices. So as a Native Hawaiian cultural practitioner associated with Mauna Kea, it was doing a particular practice which was in conflict with the rules. How would the ranger or whoever is giving a citation know who I am or not? And they would give me a citation, then I would have to go and appeal that citation. So there's no recourse. I mean, how would you distinguish a Native Hawaiian cultural practitioner who's doing something that might be in contradictory to some of the rules as written as such? That's my question posed. On page 3, at the top of page 3, section 20, 26, 24, under the heading of preservation of scientific and educational resources. I'm just going to highlight some things I just know that make that are unnecessary in these rules. Example. So one of the things it says, using any electromagnetic device, including but not limited to cellular phones, except for emergency, using wireless communication technologies and so forth. In other words, you're saying you're going to ban all these type of devices on the mountain. And if I was taking a picture and a ranger, whoever, enforcement officer could cite me because I was using a phone to take a picture. So in the rules, there's parts in the rules that I'm highlighting that don't make sense. Not that don't make sense, there's bigger ramifications. And don't make sense as well as why they're in there. So in other words, I know it might be necessary for parts of the mountain or the Mauna to be restricted for electronic devices, but not the whole 11,000 acres. But the way it's written is like the whole 11,000 acres. And in reality, if I was using my cell phone at Halipohaku, I could be cited. There's something wrong when I'm saying they just there's a blanket overbroad rules for 11,000 acres, including Halipohaku. Some rules might be appropriate for parts of the mountain, and those areas should be designated and delineated out. But it's not as the rules are. Another example of something that's ridiculous, using artificial illumination, except for highlights on licensed motorized vehicles. As written, if I use a flashlight, I could be cited. So I'm saying the rules, the way it's written is like they're trying to cover everything, but these might only apply for a specific part of the Mauna, and not for the entire 11,000 acres. I'll have just a few and I'll wrap up here. Specific comments. Section 2662, group use permits, generally. Any group larger than 10 members shall be required to attain a group use permit. The same applies. What if I brought 11 people up to the visitor center? That means I would have to apply for a permit to go to the visitor center? There's there's rules that don't make any sense at all. So if for example, if I wanted to go to the Imiloa Center on UH campus and I had 11 people, does the Imiloa Center require a permit? Then why would a permit be required for 10 or more people going to the visitor center? That's ridiculous. You're going to file a permit to take 10, 11, suppose you have 11 people, you have to file a permit to take 11 people to go to the visitor center? Maybe there's certain parts of the Mauna that may be applicable, but the way the rules are written applies to all the UH managed lands of Mauna Kea, including the Halepohaku. And section 2663, group use permits for public assemblies and meetings. It states that, I'm just basically going to say, parts of this rule are in violation of the First Amendment rights and runs afoul of rights of free speech and association and movement. This rule is written, some of these rules as we read it are written because of trying to get the TMT built. And it's clear and simple as that. And there's no denying the way some of these rules are written. I don't want to say in all the rules, but the way some of these rules are written, like this particular rule is written for that regard. But if you're under the, according to the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution and state constitution, you have a free right to movement and free right to assemble. Why should I have to get a permit for that? If you peacefully assemble and peacefully right for movement, you shouldn't need a permit for that. And then who's going to deny the permit? On what basis the permit's going to be denied or approved? There's no guidelines for that. Anyway, I'm just saying it's in violation the way that rule is written. Overall, I'm going back to the other part. The penalties for violations of the rules as written needs to be sorted out from minor to major. And the Department of Land and Natural Resources already has ways to sort it out. And one of the reasons that the state created the civil resource violation system was for that very fact. So they created that system so that issuance of citations for minor violations, either a fine, a retribution for fees and costs, or non-monetary sanctions like restoration, that would not have to go through a court system. In this case, would not have to go through a contested case hearing system. Lastly, the contested case hearing for appeals of the rules I don't even know why that's in there. Have you guys ever read what a contested case is? Ever been to a contested case hearing? The way it's set up, why would somebody go through that process? You should at least you should just have a simple hearing, either before the board or someone else, on certain violations. And other violations, as said, minor ones don't even have to go to the board. I'm looking at how things are to be more effective, more cost-effective, more time-saving, and more just. And the way these rules are set up, especially for penalties and violation, is none of that. And so with that regard, I just thank you for allowing me to go beyond 3 minutes. And I'll just wait for October 18th, see what appears on that date. Otherwise, I provided in written testimony, and I'll also submit my testimony online. Mahalo nui holo kihoiana.
Next testifier is Christopher Langen.
Back in 1978, I was called to the Mauna, and Sonny Kaniho took me up the mountain. A gentleman who had been had been taking people skiing up on the Mauna, had some skis for me to use, and we asked permission to go up the mountain. Ever since then, every time I go up the mountain, I ask permission. I give thanks when I come off the mountain. And this is in regards to recreational use and snow play, not commercial use. Back in 1938, I had met a gentleman back in 1938 who had gone up the mountain and had skied and said this is just a vast wilderness. He called it a vast wilderness, 100 square miles of skiable terrain. And culturally, I didn't understand at that time how significant the mountain was, but it was explained to me it was the people's mountain. And always respected it as the people's mountain. And we had the right to use the mountain respectfully, not take from the mountain, and not leave anything on the mountain. And over the years, I've seen trash because of the observatories. I've seen desecration. I've gone places on skis. And on skis, we leave a track, but it's not like a footstep. When you walk, when there's no snow, you leave a footstep. But on skis, when the snow melts, there's no trace. So I felt like I could go. I felt like I could explore. I could reach out. And I had a means to not only reach out, but a means to get back. And in those years, I've skied thousands of vertical feet, and up to 7. I've skied down to, from the summit to Halipohaku. I've seen 16 feet of snow in drifts. Months and months of snow, and I've seen what global warming's done to our Mauna. But when Poliahu blesses the mountain, and we wake up and we see that, the people of our island and around the world, they don't believe, people around the world don't believe it. But people here, we want to go, and we're called to the mountain. And over the years, I've seen more. It's like we put the fences up, we put the gates up, we're told when we can go, when we can't go. And it's not when we're called, not when we're called. And for me, it was a calling. And then I had a knowledge, so I shared that knowledge. There was a period of time in which I had applied for a commercial use permit, and I was granted a ski permit, and I'd take small groups up on the mountain. And then the eclipse happened. There was 2 permits back then. My permit and Pat Wright. He still has his permit. The eclipse happened, and the department said, oh, we want to put all these people up on the mountain. We need your permit. We only have 2 permits. We're going to take your permit, but no worries. You can still go ski. No worries. I was a member of Mauna Kea Ski Patrol, which was a national organization to promote safe skiing, to educate people, to keep people safe. In those years, at one point we came across a piece of a sled over these years of skiing on this mountain. And Bishop Museum traced it back to a piece of a sled that was used for, they think, taking the basalt adds off the mountain. Who would want to carry it down the mountain when you can sled it down the mountain? So snow play, I wouldn't necessarily call it play, but using the snow and sledding on the mountain, in this case 2 runners, just like skis, dates back who knows how far. So to limit snow play, to limit our access to the mountain when we're called, to limit our ability to go places where when the snow is gone, we leave nothing, is wrong. You know, this is the people's mountain. So I'm here on behalf of those that cannot speak, because I've been blessed with the ability to be on the mountain. I've been told I can't go on the mountain at times, and yet, just like the rules are for us, but they're not for the observatory personnel. And that's wrong. If rules are going to apply to us, then they should apply to everyone. If we can't go up the mountain, then no one should go up the mountain. So I'm against your rules for snow play, and I think the mountain belongs to the people. So thank you for this opportunity.